All right, everybody, we're on live again. Sorry about that. That happens. We've been working with different microphones trying to get this thing to be, working well for you guys. Anyway, it didn't work. Here we are. We're back with a different mic. Someone can just send me something, maybe from Australia, and let us know if it's working. From New Zealand, Australia, Holland, anybody want to let me know? Just so we don't have to go through. Now it's good. Okay, Brazil, now it's good. Another continent, please.
It's good.
It's good. All right. It's good from this continent. All right. Very good. Here we go. So we have to take care of our psychotherapeutic needs before we go deeper into the stages, or as we go deeper into stages. So anyway, shout out for Susie Darren in New York. I think she'll do sessions by internet. I'm not sure. Check it out with her, but she's worth it because she's trained with me a long time. She understands this view. We're going to be offering spiritual psychotherapy courses and workshops in the future. Okay, so stay tuned for those too. Now, so she asked about true devotion. Okay, let me talk about devotion, how to cultivate it, but from a specific aspect here. I'm going to ask Suki to print out the questions at the same time because I thought I'd have them here to go with it so I could look at them at the same time. But anyway, so here's what I want to tell you guys about this. First of all, true devotion is to be empty. Okay, we're talking about a quality that is perfected in stage 6 out of 12-stage view. But what is this devotion? Devotion is actually to be empty. Now, people think, what do you mean? Devotion is like full of Shakti, full of happiness, full of joy, full of, I'm like bubbling over with bliss and babbling on about everything is lovely. Something terrible happens and I go, oh, it was the grace of God, it's all lovely. Maybe that's your expression of realization. But let's look at devotion in a little more scientific way from this tradition's perspective. Devotion is to be empty, to recognize and live this understanding of emptiness, impermanence. Impermanence is emptiness, and insubstantiality. This is what it really means. When we're not full, like when we're not clogged up, when we're truly empty, when we understand our insubstantial nature, then we can be devoted, right? We can devote and we can be devoted. If I go to my teacher and I sit there and I'm only thinking, what am I going to get? What's he going to give me? What's he going to give me? That's okay. Stage 1, 2, 3, 4, that's, normal. But if I'm thinking I'm moving into stage 5 and 6, and I'm getting into true devotion with my teacher, my realized acharya that I go to, some people call a guru, slang term for a realized acharya. Well, if I'm sitting like that with my realized acharya, I'm not devoted, actually. In fact, I'm full of what I want to receive. And that's not true devotion. So the first thing we have to understand about true devotion is it has an empty quality to it. It has an insubstantial, impermanent sense of openness to it, completely. Doesn't mean you're living in that yet. You're not stage 7 yet. It's not irreversible enlightenment, irreversible realization, I should say, of the open state. But you're moving into it so strongly. That's what makes stage 6 so stage 60. Feels like bhakti, what people call bhakti, so devotional. Okay, so the first thing, true devotion is to be empty. If you're full of yourself, even partially, you can't be, with everybody else. You really can't be connected to everybody else. So I just heard the beeps go off here. You might have heard them here too. The electricity went back off. Looks like it's back on again. Sometimes in the jungle here, electricity goes off, so we got to be ready for that too, in case we get a break, okay? Now, what's the next thing? Devotion isn't seva either. By doing service for somebody, that does not show, or service for an organization, that does not show that you're in a state of devotion. It shows you're doing devoted activity. You're doing some kind of activism, let's say, or serving your teacher. Okay, that's cool. But it doesn't mean it's pure devotion because our lineage is really strict on definitions of realization, devotion, love. All these things are super strict because it has to be. We have to have a real knowledge of the teachings and have proper view to get the proper fruit. Proper view, proper fruit. That's how it works, okay? So devotion is not seva or selfless service. Devotion comes before seva. So if I want to do selfless service to an organization like PETA or whatever, Save the Whales, or I want to give it to my teacher, I have to first be in a place of emptiness myself, coming from no motive for personal gain. That's devotion. See, devotion and loyalty are very close together. In the samurai tradition or warrior tradition all around the world, real loyalty and devotion are the same because they're based on unconditional love. In Sanskrit, we call advaita bhavana. Advaita bhavana. Not. Dvaita, two. Bhavana, emotional or attitudinal mode of disposition, way of being. The not to way of being. To be devotional is to be empty so that I am just there for you. I gave an example of this the other day to Padma, who was here, and I'll give this example again. It's beautiful. I was sitting there with my Indian guru and his main disciple who took over the whole monastery system, etc., was sitting there. We were both I was the bodyguarding and keeping the crowd from grabbing him, and he was sitting there just being attentive. And I remember him just, he always had this unbroken stare at Swamiji like this. And all of a sudden he just leapt up. Guruji was just, talking to the crowd of 2,000 or 3,000 people that day. And he just leapt up and started running. And his dhoti, I remember, it was a really great little visual. His dhoti was flying behind him, and he high hurdled a few fences. It was really cool. I was laughing. He looked like Superman, super sannyasi, And he came back and sat down quietly, didn't say anything, didn't signal me, because sometimes just, he'd get me to do something if something was off or whatever. So everything was okay. Next thing you know, just like this, he puts his hand out with an object in it right at that moment. And Swamiji just reaches over and takes it and continues to talk, pointing to it, talking about it. And I was like, wow, that was incredible type of devotion, meaning not that he ran and sweated bullets to get it for him, but that he was so empty inside and so full of his love for his teacher that he felt psychically the impulse of what his teacher wanted at that time to talk about. And he ran and got it before his teacher even got to the topic. It was just like, it was there in the field of consciousness. He grabbed it, came back, offered it. When Swamiji got to that topic, he took it right out of his hand. It was amazing. And I was like, that is devotion. That is extraordinary devotion. Why? Because it's extraordinarily empty of this self-importance, self-centeredness. So remember that. You can do seva activity to train that way, to try to get yourself over yourself. And fighting yourself is not the greatest thing, but testing yourself is. But in the end, if you want to do real seva, selfless service means selfless, so you got to be empty, okay? Now, what are we empty of? We're empty of the clinging to the notion of I. Clinging to the notion of I. Without the notion of I, then we have no attachments. That's it. So it's perfect. So emptiness, no I. No I, no attachments. Great. You're not devoted to yourself. Here you have the possibility of true devotion. And the truth is, this true devotion, which represents stage 6 in our tradition, is actually the path. I wrote on someone's answer recently on Facebook, devotion is the path to liberation. It's like the bricks on the road to liberation. Yeah, everything you do in stage 1 to 5 is great for liberation. But without the catalyst, the boiling chip or the enzyme of devotion, which is to be truly empty and then focused on the benefit of others, without that, we can't go the rest of the way of the journey. As Abhinavagupta has said, every great master said this, of course. Now, so then Susie has like a number 2 of her question. So what I want to say is, devotion is also not a technique. People are like, what is a technique to increase my devotion? Dharma, what can I do to increase my devotion? I go, well, you can become non-attached. You can become more empty-oriented, not just focused on others, because you might become a doormat. You might have codependency issues. You might be really, what we call doing stupid compassion. I did that. I did stupid compassion and stupid generosity until I learned the difference. In my life, I've earned like a few $1 million, and I've given so much away because, and I, don't have big money now. I've given so much away simply because of my ideas, get this, not the spontaneous devotion, not spontaneous generosity coming from essence, but my idea of how to be generous, how to be devoted. And because of that, I made some mistakes in life. This is one of them. So this is not a technique. Everybody get that? Write that down. So we have 2 things. We have bhava, or a state. So when we do our practice in Strikamasa Yoga, we do 2 things. We either invoke a state, or we have a technique we apply. And they can sometimes go together. So we have a bhava or an upaya. A bhava or an upaya. A bhava or a sadhana. A state we invoke or a technique. Understand this. Upaya is what you do. Bhava is what you are, what you shift into. So this is not a technique. Devotion is not a technique. Even in Swami Shivananda's devotion, Bhakti Yoga, he lists out steps and steps and steps and steps and steps to get to bhakti, to get to devotion. But they're really steps to devotion. You can't make devotion happen. It's not a technique. If it was, it'd be awesome. It's not. It's an inner shift. Here I got to borrow some new age terminology. Shift, man. I'm going to have a shift. I love the shift, because you shift right back. Here we have to talk about a permanent shift. This is not something that's shifty, okay? You don't do it, right? You shift into a new gear. You exist in that new way of being. Now, your ability, here's the key, right? Your ability to exist in a relatively non-self-referencing mode. Your ability to exist in a relatively non-self-referencing mode depends on your true ability to instantly be in another mode. Get it again. Your ability to exist in a relatively non-self-referencing mode depends on your true ability to instantly be in another mode. In other words, if I am empty of own self-permanence and I consciousness as much as possible, I can easily shift gears. In other words, I don't hold states. Example is somebody offends me. Let's not offend me because that's based on ego right away. I have a wrong idea about something from observing something, and I'm starting to form some action around it, let's say, and then immediately new information comes to light that shows that's incorrect. So it's just like, oh, okay, done. And you just change. That's really important. That's, of course, not achievable at lower stages of view. 1, 2, 3, it's still difficult. We're still working on that in lower stages of view. So if you're having a hard time with that still, you know what stage you're in. But you'll get there. At stage 5, 6, 7, it's going to become, at 5, we're really working that. We're really working it to be just, okay, I got to just walk away, or I got to change the state, and you can just change your state. You could be having the most vehement, violent inner energy of anger in an argument, and all of a sudden, just drop it immediately. Just drop it and be totally, I love you, let's just get on with things. The other person's still smoldering, pile of ash, maybe, or angry and still holding about it. This is how more realized beings can shift quite quickly between states, right? What does it depend on? What is the ability to exist in non-self-referencing and shift depend on again? So we're looking at peeling this onion, looking at layers upon layers. It depends on 2 things again. Ready? I told you it's going to be like a class lecture today, so take some good notes here. Because I see so many questions about this over and over again in different forms. If you read these Facebook threads, Tantra Yoga Now, our Facebook thread, other ones, it's over and over and over. And I think this is because people don't have the oral practice tradition. They don't hear these oral teachings. They just read these lofty principles from Abhinavagupta, getting these great translations coming out of the great masters in Buddhism and Shaivism. But you can't apply it, That comes from the teachers who've been through the trenches, through the crap, basically, came out the other side. So here's how it works. Being able to be in this empty, open state and shift depends on level of Shaktipata received. But this is a big and, really a big and, okay? Level of Shaktipata received, not first. I'm not saying that's more important. Equally important is stable competency. Stable competency of the level that you've attained in the 12-stage view in your own development. It's extremely important. Stable competency. This is really important. Why? Because people have an LCD, a lowest common denominator. We call it LCD in English, lowest common denominator. It means that we have an English slang saying, when the shit hits the fan, you get to see what someone's really made of, right? And you see that all the time. Sports analogies are very easy, especially in sports I've been into, like the one-on-one combat sports. People talk a lot of smack, and then before the match, as you're looking in the person's eye before you shake their hand, you can see if you're going to win or not. You know right away whether that person was full of it, has competency, or doesn't. So it's the same in spiritual work. It's identical, the same spiritual work. What allows us to maintain this deep sense of open emptiness and able to shift not like we're not centered and we're kind of psychotic or whatever, like not having basic sanity or, personality disorder, not like that. I'm saying what allows us to just let go and move and relax naturally and flow through the day, true flow, not new agey flow. New agey flow is not new agey flow because there's a lot of resistance in new agey flow. Because if you tell them something they don't like, they resist you like crazy. If you walk up with a big burger you're eating and they're a vegan and they're all in the flow, they go crazy. They go crazy. I saw this happen in Bangkok. And I was like, not really in the flow there, are you? That flow, I don't want that flow. That's a polar version of non-duality. That's not true realization at all. So here we have to have Shaktipat, stable competency. Stable competency has to be built in sadhana. This is why awakenings don't matter. Here's why Shaktipata really doesn't matter at one level. It's only one part of this formula. So let's use some examples. If I have a high level Shaktipata, a number 7, number 8 on the stages of 1 through 9 of Shaktipata now, we're talking about not 12-stage view. If I have level 7, level 6 Shaktipata, there's a very good chance that I'm going to be so rooted in my own referencing as my Svasvarupa, my Rigpa, my essential nature, your source, whatever you want to call it. I can easily, I can rectify and come back to it. This is what my teacher used to say about me. He said, Dharma, you had so much Shaktipata from your life, whatever, that I trust you to be an acharya because you'll always recalibrate. You'll find out where you've gone wrong somehow, and you have no problem going, well, that was not good, that was wrong. That's not the best for all sentient beings. And you'll change how you teach or whatever, So we have to have that, and that comes with a higher level Shaktipata. But it doesn't matter you get 6, 7 level Shaktipata. If you don't do the sadhana to stabilize it, it will not manifest. It's like you plant a seed with that Shaktipata down in the earth, but the tree only comes up through the sadhana. The stabilization only comes through the sadhana. I do a lot of prayers. I pray all day long. When I'm not using my mind, I'm praying internally, sometimes out loud. I do Sanskrit prayers, Tibetan prayers. People are like, Dharma, why would you do prayers if you're a yogi who's at a certain level? That's so basic. The Shaivists like to be really condescending, transcendentalists about it. They really like it. They love to be like, that's anavapaya. Why would you do anavapaya, Dharma? You're using an object. It's a duality type of practice. I'm like, you just have to host everybody. There is no duality, non-duality when it comes to this path in Trikramasana Yoga. You can pretty much forget about that. When it comes to sadhana, don't worry about that whatsoever. I have a mind, I have a body, I have an energy. That mind, body, energy will be able to be conditioned by outer circumstances its entire existence if I don't condition it first. Take that to the bank. Every realized being has the same dilemma. What you see is people, what I don't like and what I see a lot of is people coming from the Indian traditions, Western teachers from Indian tradition or Indian teachers from Vedanta, Shaivism, whatever. They get a certain stage of realization. Then they sort of sit back like fat cats. Yeah. Oh, I don't have to do sadhana anymore. There's no more growth for me. I had this Shaktipata, this breakthrough, and you hear people talking about it ad infinitum, ad nauseum, You had a breakthrough, big deal. You have to stabilize it with sadhana. And, there's effort in that sadhana. Let's not pussyfoot around and try to say, the easeful path that the great Manjari writes about and so forth. Yeah. When you're in stage 9, you can do the easeful path, okay? You're not going to do the easeful path in stage 8. And part of 9 is also having effort sometimes. That's pretty high up, guys. That's pretty high up. So we don't agree with the modern idea that your sadhana goes from here and just goes up into transcendental, clouds, and you don't have to do any more hard work. That's a God realm delusion. Take 6 realms with me. If you don't really take 6 realms with me, you're never going to understand this God realm thing. And it's out there huge. It's the #1 spiritual tradition right now, the God realm fixation. And you don't want to be God realm fixated, trust me. It's delusion. It's another form of samsara where you don't know you're suffering and it looks like you're getting realized. Wow. Talk about a, dangerous thing. So this ability to stay open, empty, and shift really quickly is based on Shaktipata and stable competency. Stable competency comes out of sadhana because Shaktipata is out of our control. Harish, on Tantra Yoga now is so correct. You do not get Shaktipata from a guru's initiation, okay? It might happen at the same time, it might. But it's not the purpose of it, really. Yes, a very high stage 10, stage 9 being can orchestrate that Shaktipada, but guess what? They can't make you take it. That's a fact. They cannot make you take it. It's like bring a horse to water, can't make him drink. You might even want it really badly, but you'll have some block. Maybe the wanting it is too much, anxiety. Maybe you don't feel worthy, some impurity somewhere in you, whatever. So it doesn't even matter if some high being gives a Shaktipada initiation to you, so-called Shaktipada initiation. You may not even be able to get it. So it's not, initiation is really not for that, okay? So Shaktipata, grace, it's out of your control. Just keep doing your sadhana, create an environment where grace can naturally show up. Do your sadhana, what kind? Seated sadhana, integration sadhana. 2 types of sadhana we have in our school. Very, very, very important that we have seated sadhana and integration. We have some of the most profound, scientific, turbocharged, I call them, integration sadhanas on the planet. And I'm going to tell you, the integration sadhanas are far more powerful and important than the seated ones. I didn't say the seated ones aren't important and necessary. They are necessary. They are important. But by far, the integration sadhanas are much more important. We have to do them both. Okay. So what you want to do is saturate in view. Read books, attend trainings as much as you can. Watch teaching videos over and over. All these are going to be stored for a while, and then we're going to put them up on YouTube. Watch that YouTube channel over and over, sink in the teachings. Do your practices, especially contemplations and deep meditation. Contemplations are really important. A lot of people skip right over that and go into all kinds of fancy practices and meditations. Contemplation and deep meditation is a really important phase of practice. Anna, can you give me some more degrees lower, right next to you? Thank you. Yeah. So then we need reminders to shift into the view all the time. And this is why on the basic level, we would wear wrist malas. If you're not talking and using your brain like that, at that time, take off the wrist mala and use it, run a mantra all the time. Keep shifting into that bhava. A little more subtle is what we do, awareness walking or awareness posture, where we're doing double kumbha breath very softly or gently while we're standing, doing whatever. So our mind can go into neutral. We can just be in more of a present mode. Or even beyond that, starting to cultivate the lower kumbha, breathing into the red bindu in the base. If you've gone through kumbhaka training with me, you can take soft kumbhakas during the day for a second or two on every in-breath, then give it a break for a few minutes and do it again, that kind of thing through the day. These are all ways to remind to shift in. Also, just remembering, what would it be like if I was a being of pure compassion right now? You ask yourself these questions during the day, like you do in deep contemplation meditation. What would it be like if I was a being of pure love right now, pure compassion right now? How would I act? How would I feel? How would I think? How would I host the situation? Like this, it's very good. And if these don't work, if like saturating in the view and practicing every day, contemplating, meditating, and reminders to shift and stuff, if those things don't work, then you go back and you do more foundation training. This is how our system works. It's super scientific, guys. If you're getting to a place you're like, well, I have breakthroughs, I have illumination moments, illuminação, right? Brazilians, but they don't stick. That's an obstacle. That is a spiritual issue. If your breakthrough or your Shaktipada moment or awakening doesn't stick, that's an obstacle, that's an issue. And that is remedied by the age-old, time-proven tradition called foundation training. And that is why many great masters will do foundation training over and over and over and over. My Indian guru, at the height of his realization, he was already manifesting 2 bodies in 2 different places giving teachings. He already had the siddhi of going into a dead body in the cremation ground, having it come up and talk and give a lecture while his body was back at the ashram being guarded, documented over and over, okay? He already had that. And he did Pancha Agni Sadhana, sitting around 4 fires, doing millions of rounds of mantra. You say to yourself, Why would a person at that level do such a basic training? This is why. That's what I'm telling you. We do foundation training and we cycle back to foundation training over and over and over and over. So I'm using Sue Monisa or Susie Darren's question here on devotion to go back in and say, look, to make a plug for foundation training. Because maybe you don't get that devotion stabilized. You got to go back in foundation training. Anything that you experience, any virtue you want that's not stabilized, you go in foundation training. Any alchemical state that you're achieving of energetic refinement, right? You build the energy and you refine, you build, refine. You know, it's a lot of alchemy in our system in that way, in the path of fire. If that's not stabilized, it's because the foundation is weak. The container isn't there. Uleshwari's question about how do we build a container. This is it, foundation training. That's why I'm doing prayers all the time. So Dharma, you know, you're just such a basic practitioner. Yep, that's me, just basic practitioner. So go back and do more foundation work if that comes up. Okay, all right, enough on those. Thank you, Sumanasa, Susie Darren, for those awesome questions. Make sure you contact her with your psycho-spiritual issues that you want to work with, because she can help with that a lot. Henrik Budde. Henrik from Europe, let's answer a few questions here. Kind of briefly, Henrik, you asked massive questions that if I really were to fully answer them would be, I don't know, 50 hours per question, to tell you the truth. I love it. I love it that you ask these wild questions, fantastic questions, but I'm gonna have to cover them a little more briefly, okay? First one is 12-stage view. You wanted me to do an outline of 12-stage view. Well, the book coming out soon, and the trainings are there for 12-stage view. When I do the full training for 12-stage view, it's a 12-day training. We do the stage view transmission every single day. And you can, if you're lucky and open, you can have experience of some of those stages all the way through. Gives you kind of like some reference point for later, not to make a concept out of it. So here's the thing. You asked about the origins of 12-stage view and stuff. Let me tell you how it works. There were many, many stages of the view kind of models out there, stages of the path models in ancient India, Nepal, China, Tibet, Iran, Persia, many, many systems of spirituality around the world have it. Native American systems. In fact, I studied with my grandfather Thundercloud, and their system, Cherokee, had 12 stages. The Lenni Lenape of New Jersey had 12 stages. These New Jersey Indians that I studied with as well. So everybody's got their stages of the view. Zen, ox herder, paintings, 10 stages. Very close to ours, very close. So the origin of these 12 stages, though, as far as I know, this is all I know about it, is that it's oral tradition. Because I had already graduated as an acharya, meaning a fully authorized teacher of the lineage of non-dual Tantra from the oral practice tradition in 1996. I'd already graduated. 4 years later, I went back to India for the Mahakumbh Mela ceremony that happens once every 144 years at the confluence of 3 rivers, astrological thing where the huge galactic universe and our little Earth line up. So time to get a great blessing. I went there, and on the way back, I stopped at my guru's ashram to say hi and never know, get a teaching, right? Sure enough, we were shared a train from the ashram down to Calcutta, overnight train together. As fate would have it, which is quite unusual, an Indian train, we had our whole berth to ourselves, sleeping car, and we didn't sleep a wink. Stayed awake the whole time as he transmitted to me the 12-stage view teachings. And I'd already been graduated. And if I had not gone back, I don't even know if I would have received it. So sometimes people get a big ego, like I graduate, they run out, they don't want to learn anymore. I was like, no, it's got to be more. So this is how I got it. It's an oral teaching tradition. And when I publish the book, I'm going to have photos of the little maps that my guru drew out in the notebook to teach it to me. It was really quite sweet. Put them in there, show you his original drawing and handwriting and stuff in the back in the appendix, okay? That's where it comes from. It is a Mahasiddha Yoga model, though. I'm going to tell you right now, Trika Mahasiddha Yoga does not conform to the strictest sense of what was developed by Abhinavagupta. It does not. It doesn't also conform to the strictest sense to what you see written. I'm talking about text traditions now. What's in Vajrayana? It does not. Nor the Shakta text of India. It does not. No one tradition nails down this 12-stage view. And let me tell you why. from my opinion. My humble opinion is this: 12-stage view that I was given seems to be the most powerful transmission I've ever received about the human path of realization. Now, humans make up religions, humans make up philosophies, and when you do that, there's always a certain little flavor that says ours is the best. Abhinavagupta comes straight out and says ours is the best. But he also says all the other ones are good. They just fit below ours like this. And he stacks them up and shows you where they fit. That's a pretty cool way. It's inclusive, but still says yours is the best. Now, but they all think theirs is the best. So what I love about our 12-stage view is it's truly not anything is the best. There's no system that's the best. We don't believe a written system is the best at all. The human experience of realization from ignorance to enlightenment, that's the best. That's what it's about. That has been researched for literally thousands of years. And we pretty much are getting surer and surer about this, that it came out of Persia area, maybe even Egypt, who knows, but definitely from Persia. And that came across and swept across into India, Tibet, China, and all became these traditions of Asia that everybody knows as Dharma traditions now. Well, over all of that time, Yogins have been passing it on to Yogins, refining and refining it. Let me tell you, Yogins sitting up in caves in the mountains, they're not going to keep something that doesn't work. I mean, come on. You're barely surviving on air and water. You don't have time to fool around with stuff that doesn't work. They throw it all out. So our OPT, our oral practice tradition of Trika Mahasiddha Yoga is what works, period. I'm not saying other things don't work. I'm saying what we received is highly refined, highly efficient, and gives light body. It's very amazing. So this is the 12-stage view. It chronicles and guides you through these 12 stages. And I think it's fantastic because let's say you're my student and I'm not around a lot, you live in a different country, you need those teachings to help guide yourself, to know what practice is next. Are these symptoms and signs, these internal signs, external signs correct for this stage? Am I not maintaining competency at that level? Blah, 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 blah. And then you can change it. Go get a tune-up out of training or, whatever. Go back into your own foundation training on your own. So it's a great self-guidance tool, okay? And this oral, you asked, are there any books on this that aren't in Sanskrit? Well, it's never been written in any language. I'm going to put it in English first because my Indian teacher, Swamiji, and His Holiness, my Tibetan teacher, both asked me to, this is one thing they asked me to do, take all the teachings from Sanskrit and Tibetan, put them in English. Put them in English. They said all these have been translated many, many times. Very few originated in Sanskrit, very few originated in Tibetan. It should be in the modern language of the reader. So we're going to put them in English, and then my other translator experts in Holland, like Timo, and people down in Brazil and so forth, they're going to do the translations in their own language as well. And that way they help a lot of beings get a lot of merit. All right, that's 12-stage view. So that's about 12-stage view. I can't tell you 12-stage view. All right, come to one of the trainings and we'll talk about it more. Also, Trika method covers a very basic idea of the first 3 stages, just to help people get grounded a bit. So you might want to look at Trika method, get a free membership for a week, and go on just specifically to look up 12-stage view. There'll be the first 3 stages discussed very briefly. Okay? Next question you had was Prakashakaya, stage 12. Definition of full realization. Let me get to your questions. Henry, here we go. Heard about rainbow body. Is it described in non-dual Shaivism? Okay. So in non-dual Shaivism, rainbow body is called Prakashakaya. Prakasha is like the light of consciousness. This is how Harish translates it from Tantra Loka, and I think it's a good translation. Light of consciousness. You literally become what you always have been, but have been unable to realize. When you hit stage 12, you become the light of consciousness. You attain your original body is another way to say it. So when people get freaked out, like, oh my God, I'm going to become light, that's so freaky. Like, I don't want to do that. No, you do want to do that because that's really what you are. This version is like the 1.0. The light body version is like the 7.0. You know what I mean? Like 12.0, we could say in this case. So does non-dual Tantra talk about light body? So Henrik, as far as I know, there are no texts that we've translated yet or found yet that teach how to attain light body or talk about it directly that I've seen. But my guru did write about it in his books, not how to get it, but that it exists, and that's the main goal of yoga. And also, we see some tangential references to it. And I saw this in Shiva Sutra. Shiva Sutra has a commentary by Bhaskara and an anonymous person. And in this commentary on one of the sutras, you can see, I think, clear allusions and clear referencing towards the light body. We also have the text of Virupaksha Mahasiddha. Actually, I see him right now. I'm going to tilt down for a second. Look at my this arm here. There's a little dark statue right at my arm right there, and he's looking up in the sky. He's got this mudra on. That's Virupaksha. See in there? Virupaksha Mahasiddha. Virupaksha Mahasiddha was a very amazing major Mahasiddha within our tradition of the 84 Mahasiddhas. And he wrote a text, and I think you should check out his text, called The Three-Eyed One, or The Vision of the Three-Eyed One, something like that. The translation in English, I think, is a bit fumbly. So if you're good at Sanskrit, you can have a good time with it yourself. I think it could be done better, and I'm hoping maybe to do that someday, maybe with Harish, Christopher Wallace, somebody who's in the tradition a bit and really gets it a bit with language, and with our oral practice tradition teachings, we can really make that thing come alive, right? So his book is good for it too. In his text, he says many times, your body is the body of the universe. It doesn't say, he says, like, this is not allegory, this is not metaphor. Your body is the body of the universe. In other words, when you become Shiva, you become the universe. And this is actually the same as the Prakashakaya. Because it's not like you enter into a nothingness state. That's like a Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta. You become nothing, right? Inert, passive, unconscious, like deep sleep. And the Shaivists always made fun of that. Like, what kind of enlightenment is that? That's crazy. It's like a rock. They used to call it the enlightenment of a rock. 1 hour? Mm-hmm. So instead of that, when we become realized through our tradition, we're not trying to go away into Kaivalya. No. Tantra, Dzogchen, we're becoming who we already were, what we already are, this entire universe that we don't really understand. Because we, our own ego structure, self-grasped at individual identity. That's how we got this way. Right? So the rainbow light body is that full expression of that. That's why when people talk about full realization, and they're still sitting there in their body, saying they're fully realized, or that their system says you're fully realized while you're still in a body, this body, limited body, I think, it's just a different definition. We're a little more hardcore. You can't tell me that you don't have any karma at all anymore when you're still sitting in a physical body. Mahasiddhas of stage 10 in our system, the stage 10 Mahasiddha, the very name of the stage means destruction of all karma. But it means that in a catchy way. It means that you're in transition. Stage 10 is like you still have a body, and you can walk through a mountain, walk through a wall, you can dissolve it and come back, dissolve it and come back. But it's not full light body yet. It's not full seamless continuity with the entire universe yet. You can stall at stage 10 and live for thousands of years if you want, like Babaji, Yogananda's Babaji, and people like that. Okay? Now, so your question about it specifically as I waffle here is, this is described in non-dual Shaivism? No. Yes, a little bit, like I said, in Shiva Sutra's Bhaskara's commentary, and the original Vasagupta Shiva Sutra says it, I think, and also in Virupaksha's. So not so much in the Indian side. But remember, there's literally thousands of texts that are still going to be translated. There's a myth, we don't know if it's true or not, there's no evidence because villagers weren't there, that Abhinavagupta took a lot of students into a cave before he died. Instead of taking a normal death, he light-bodied, as did all of the students. Quite possible. Right? Quite possible. The thing I like about the Tibetan tradition is they send invitations out to the whole village nearby and say, I'm going to go do it. Everybody watches. So, you can't doubt it. Christopher Wallace and I were having a little bit of a tug of war back and forth for a while on his site. And he was saying, well, if the supposed rainbow light body is a real thing, because it's not in the books he's reading, but it's in our tradition very much so, right? When Kabir died even, when they opened up the coffin, it was loaded with flowers. Amazing. So there's many different types of rainbow light body too. There's not just one type. And the types are different. And they show different degrees of realization. It's also possible to have a light body experience but not be fully realized in stage 12. That's also a technical thing we can talk about another time. There was also Milarepa, who burned up in the spiritual fire. That's certainly an interesting way to die. shows a definite control of his whole being in the elements, but it's not a light body either in the strictest sense. Even Tibetan Buddhists will tell you that. Okay? All right. Enough on that. Stage 12 stuff, it's kind of like sci-fi unless we're there already, right? Okay. C, your letter C, let's see. What is non-duality? You found it touching. You watched Chris's video, what is non-duality? You found it touching. Okay, are there tools for connecting continuously or reconnecting? Now here, that's interesting. Thinking about non-duality creates duality and suffering. Here's the thing I want to teach you right away in our tradition. Just let go of this whole obsession with duality, non-duality. I'm telling you, it creates the most messed up people I've ever met in spiritual work. See how I'm a normal guy sitting here talking? My Papa knows I go down and teach wrestling on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and Kung Fu, and I wash my car and I wax my car, and I'm talking like this. I don't have to talk like this. And then, just remember yourself. Forget everything else. This is quite easy. It's the easy path. There's nothing to do. You know, you look like a lunatic. And I tell you, it all comes, and it's unconscious by a lot of teachers who do it. But, and there are Indians who do it. It's only on the Indian side. You never, ever see it on the Tibetan side. I think that's fascinating. If full realization is what you look like when you do that, do you think Tibetans would look like that too? Talking like, you know, they're on some kind of sedative mixed with ecstasy? You know what I mean? I find it really hysterical. It's really quite funny. And why does this happen? Now look, you asked about non-duality and how can you stay non-duality, and I'm picking on this kind of thing. Because, Henrik, this is important. I believe there's too much emphasis talking about non-duality versus duality, and that makes people want to act a different way. Act like they're non-dual, right? Avoid duality. If you're in the non-dual, there is no duality. There's nothing to avoid if you're in the non-dual. This is what's so ridiculous about this view, and ridiculous about the teachers that put it out and do this contrived acting thing to look like all calm, sedated. I mean, I got friends who were born like that. All through school, they were like that. If they got realized and became a teacher, they would still talk like that. Probably wouldn't do as many cheesy smiles. Probably wouldn't pause so long to like give you the transmission of their loving Shakti, you know, which is crap anyway. Can't happen through a video. I mean, come on. You got to understand how much is psychological. You watch a movie, you cry. You got transmission. You go to a stage show, you cry, you laugh, you're exalted. That's transmission. We are easily influenceable by an act of another person. If you buy swampland in Jersey, you got transmission, okay? You thought the person was for real, they're not for real, right? We've all been duped by others, right? So we have to wake up and smell the coffee, as Rudy used to say. So here's what it is. Here's what it is. Thinking about non-duality creates duality, number one. Don't think about it. Stop thinking about it. Stop trying to get it. Don't try to be non-dual, okay? Do be loving, do be compassionate, but please drop the contrived act of the Rainbow Festival kids, okay? It's bullshit right up front. You don't see any Tibetan realized masters do it. I've been with highly realized Tibetan masters. I mean, highly realized Dzogchen masters were my teachers, my direct teachers. I sat with them daily, one-on-one, in their room alone, for months on end, okay? They never act like this, ever. Even when they're giving transmission of the deepest thing to me, they never acted like this. So, trust me, it's baloney, right? Now, the person may be sincere. Here's the thing. The person may have developed it themselves out of sincerity from thinking about non-duality too much. Your intellect center and your white bindu get overactive, and you go into the human realm, and you start to try to act out a concept. Then you say, I feel it. Yeah, because you acted out a concept so long, you feel it. It's like Daniel Day-Lewis used to take on movie roles, and he was method actor, and he would get into the role so much that he would become the person. He felt all of it. It would take him months, sometimes years to wind down after a role like that. Yes, we can fool ourselves. And yes, we can absorb that even from our teacher if we had a teacher like that. Now, Indians and Western teachers from Indian lineages do it, Tibetans don't. So just remember that. Now, here it is. You are the source. right? Nothing can connect you to source. Here's are now the non-dual teachings that you want. Here are the source. You're the source, Henrik. Nothing can really connect you to source. So you're asking for a method to connect to source. You've never been separated from it. You don't need to connect to it. You don't need a method to connect to it. What you need is a method to A, realize it, B, sustain that, and then C, express it in a continual mode of expansion. A, realize it. B, connect to it, and connect to it through sadhana and strengthen the basic competency of it where it doesn't move, stabilize it, and then express it, continually expanding in the expression of it into stage 12. So there's nothing you can do. I can't give you a technique to connect to your essence. No other teacher in the world can give you a technique that connects you to your essence because you're already connected to it. I mean, Bhakti says this himself. If I give you something to connect to it, obviously it's not non-duality because you're in it already. Okay. So you practice in progression and you learn to express it. When you finally experience your source, the whole duality, non-duality issue ends. It's meaningless. And I use this story to illustrate it over and over again. I'm going to tell it again really quick because everybody listening needs to hear this over and over and over. When I was sitting with my Dzogchen master, His Holiness, it was an amazing experience. And one day I was afraid to ask him for this technique I wanted to learn because it was very low in the hierarchy of the Bon tradition. Dzogchen was here and I was asking for shamanism all the way down here. It was a soul ransom, getting the hla, or soul ransom to get it back if someone lost it through trauma, right? Someone in Iraq had a bomb go off, the soul went out, I wanted to bring it back. But I wanted to use a technique from my system now instead of other shamanism I learned. I knew that was in the Bon, as it's in Vajrayana as well. So I said, would you teach me the soul ransom technique? And I was quite scared because I thought he might disqualify me for non-dual Dzogchen teachings at the time. It was only my first year of knowing him. First or second year, I can't remember. I was sitting in his room in India and I asked him that in his temple. We used to spend a lot of time in there. We'd take walks together. And he looked at me and he said, oh, you would like this, huh? I was like, what do you mean? Oh, shoot. I'm like, what? You want to learn this one, but this is, you know, he put his glasses down. He goes, this is like shamanism, no? It's like very low. Then I knew I was in trouble. I was like, yeah, but I still have the highest view. And he started like, oh, started laughing. No problem. High, low, Dzogchenpa. You know, if you're a practitioner of Dzogchen, that's a Dzogchenpa. Dzogchenpa, no recognized high, no recognized low, no recognized dual, non-dual. Everything okay, Dzogchen. So I was like, yeah, of course. So just remember that, okay? Yeah, that's about it on that one, okay? Now, you had another question. I mentioned about dream yoga. I got to mention briefly about that because we have retreats on that. It's very hard to talk about it in great depth. We're going to give some beginning dream yoga instructions in the online foundation course that we're going to do, okay? What time, Pablo? Okay. A brief statement on dream yoga. Well, coming November 4th to 8th, if you come here, you'll learn dream yoga. That's my first statement. Second is there's technique to it. There's real technique to it. And I love doing it. I really love doing it. I still love practicing dream yoga. There's mantra that goes with it if you want to use the mantra. There's techniques that go with it about how to sleep. There's things you do during the day to feed your dream yoga at night. There's a sleeping position or positions that are better for certain things. There's prayers. There's special view teachings that go with it. So dream yoga is quite complex. It's like a whole system. The main thing to understand is this for everybody listening. When someone says they have full realization, they should have control of their dream state. Complete control of the dream state. That's full realization. If not, it's only partial realization. Because when we understand that great sutra I gave you last time, right? Jagrat, Svapna, Sushupta, Vedet, Torgya, Bhoga, Samvit. If you understand that the fourth state, or your essence, or your nature of mind, whatever you want to call it, your svasarupa, is the base of everything. And that your state of waking, your state of dreaming, your state of sleeping, and death, everything comes from that. That if you're sinking into that, all these should be under your control. Conversely, working these different states can help bring you into that fourth state. So they work together, they feed each other. Also, working these states, these three, waking, sleeping, dreaming, waking, sleeping, dreaming, feed each other in a sadhana way as well. So that's really cool. So I want to say that about the dream sleep yoga. That's how we really can work it. And it's very significant because, again, what I see in non-dual Shaivist groups, like, all of them. Paul Muller Ortega, good teacher, good group, good people. Chris Wiles, good person, good group, all these people, whether they're an acharya, really had a guru, gave them confirmation, or whether they're just translating text and doing their best to help people. That's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is all of them, they don't teach dream yoga because they don't know it, because it's not in the textbooks. There are no Shaivist textbooks found yet that have been translated that have the dream yoga. But it's deep in the oral practice tradition, and it's essential. You really have to learn the dream yoga because you'll only have a waking state realization, we call it, waking state realization, which means you're still bound to the waking state. You're not ever going to be in the non-dual, in the Paramashiva Shakti, in the fourth state, whatever you want to call it, Turiya, Turiyatita, whatever. Not going to be there until you know dream yoga. You've practiced it, you've mastered it. Sleep yoga, which is even harder, practice it and mastered it. Death and dying as well, practices and mastered them. Yeah, okay. That's enough on that. But keep going until you get to one of our trainings. I'm happy to teach it. That's the point. Okay, Wen Chen Yun asked a few things. Practices to assist. Let me get your question up first here. Okay. You've been working on non-attachment. It's kind of tough for you. Okay, you feel moved. What do you do? And how do you know what's intuition versus coming from your heart? Here we go. Practices to assist in non-attachment. Wen Chen's question. I hope I'm saying your name right, Wen Chen. First of all, it's again, there's practices, but it's more of a bhava. It's more of a decision to be free, like, I'm done. That's not attachment. I'm done. And what I really loved was how in the movie Heat, I think movies can teach a lot. I love it. In the movie Heat, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Val Kilmer, all that kind of stuff. De Niro is the mentor bank robber teaching Val Kilmer how to never get caught as a bank robber. And he says, look, you have to be ready to walk away in 7 seconds. If I can remember, that's the phrase he tells him. Walk away in 7 seconds. When you see the job isn't working, you just got to walk away in 7 seconds. Sounds a bit like Trump, doesn't it? So that's what you do. And that's great advice. And I got that same advice when I was looking into Zen. I dabbled in Zen a little bit. They were like, just make a decision. That's it. And go with it. Don't go back on it. So what if it's wrong? Well, you'll find out, and it helps sharpen your intuition, even when it's wrong. So first of all, to cultivate non-attachment is like a state. It's like a decision. You just have to be committed to being non-attached. But you're asking something deeper. A non-attachment you want to really know what is then a real heart's desire for something that should happen versus a psychological longing. And again, meditation, deep meditation, contemplation on impermanence really helps with that, right? Very important. And on no I-ness, right? But also, what do you want to do? Cultivate the desire to be free. Sometimes the prayers I do are very powerful for me because I'm already quite an inspired person, but they're inspiring me to be free. I'm really praying to be free. I'm asking those gurus who sit on my crown to pour their realization into me, fill my heart so I can recognize my own true nature. And then I can also then ask that for all other beings. And that's a basic prayer that we pray a lot in this tradition. So cultivate desire to be free. That's how you'll know non-attachment. Contemplate the nature of suffering. Sit down and actually, like we have it formulated in our system, if you ever go through our system of meditation, the way of meditation or path of meditation, there's many steps, and they start with these contemplations that are crucial. And it's not like just a few minutes, oh yeah, I get it, I'm smart, I suffer, next. No, you saturate it until you develop a real disdain for suffering. You really want to be free of it. And actually this feeds back into your ability to know non-attachment and to have real discrimination, real discernment. Remember that swan, right? Attachment, one wing, discernment, discrimination, the other wing, and that's enlightenment in our tradition, right? In the ancient teachings. So cultivate nature of suffering. Remind yourself of the illogic of self-harm. Attachment is self-harm. It harms yourself. It limits your spiritual development. It limits your realization potential. and then you can't help others. So I think, it's important to keep reminding yourself that you're harming yourself when you're attached. So just let it go. Make a strong decision. Attachment to people. So a question you had about this was an attachment to people, right? Do we create attachments to people mentally? Yes, we do. We can create attachments. Do they have an energetic base? Are they really energetically based? Well, if I'm psychologically attached to someone, if I've gone through the process of becoming conditioned to the point where I'm dependent on somebody else, that has an energetic base. The yoga and the biology and the biochemistry are not separate. The esoterics and the biology and biochemistry are not exactly totally different. So yeah, there's that there. We create it mentally. We reify it over time, right? The thicker the energetic attachment is by more and more reification, by going back to it over and over again. Sometimes the more we try to resist attachment, the stronger it gets. It's simply because we're pouring energy into it unconsciously. Not so good, right? Now, degree of sexual contact, if we're talking about attachment to ex-lovers, that really gets tricky. Because in sexual contact and two genitals touching, the central channels are actually touching. Now, at that point, that's not so great if you haven't chosen well who you want to be with, right? Because you can get strong attachment that way, and you can get central channel pollution. Can it affect your central channel, your source? No. Your central channel is always your central channel. But when we say central channel pollution means it'll mar your ability or decrease your ability to connect directly with your essence, which is an expression of your central channel, okay? So we can become attached to people. These attachments can be real. When I studied with my Hawaiian Tantra masters, the real Hawaiian kahuna system, they call them aka cords between people that they could see and feel. We'd be in a room, my kahuna would say, you slept with that one, she slept with that one, he slept with that one, they slept with that one. I'd be like, how did you know all that? It's clear, it was accurate. This one did business with that one, it was messed up. I can see the cord. What color is the cord? They were seeing something esoteric in their system, right? So there are these attachments, there are these energies. Yes, we can form these attachments to people, and we have to be extremely careful about that. Kendra's question. So Wenchen, I hope that satisfies for now. I should mention though, Wenchen and everybody else, the mirror consort path, the path of the mirror consort. This is the one I think all of us householders should be doing if we can handle monogamy. If we can handle monogamy, it's the most powerful yogic path there is. I don't think there's anything more powerful. The plugs here. This is very, very powerful and will absolutely show you your attachment. Okay, note for later. Try mirror consort path teachings in the school. So Kendra's asking some questions. Can you explain foundation of consciousness awareness? I don't fully understand the topic around play and awareness, like Lila and awareness, seeking to become aware of itself. I've talked about this at the last satsang, I think, too, or in one of the videos we put up, right? She says, I've read different ways of explaining consciousness. For example, the mirror, or when Shiva first created Shakti. I think I remember you, me, Dharma, saying that this desire to experience itself is not fully true. Can I clarify it if possible? Well, briefly, because it's a big topic. The problem is this. Philosophers have to make reasons for everything. Philosophy itself comes out of the human realm, and the human realm is all about knowing why something is the way it is, or finding out why, or making up something about why. It's all about categorizing, labeling, making levels. It's all this brainy stuff that goes on that the oral praxis tradition thinks is not so necessary. Also, it can become a problem. So here we have the problem of evil. How is evil handled in each philosophical system? How's it handled in Jung-Jung-Bun, in non-dual Shaivism, in Vedanta, in Jainism, Sikhism, Buddhism, whatever. Okay. So in Shaivism, one of the ways they handled the idea of evil, because if everything is Shiva, every single thing in this universe is Shiva. If you walk around in that mode, everything is Shiva, everything is Shiva. How do you explain pedophilia? How do you explain torture of children and sexual torture of children until they're killed, right? How do you explain this? How do you explain murder, stealing, simple things like that, right? How do you do this? Well, you can't. If you say everything is Shiva and all that's Shiva, and my way of explaining it is that, well, it's all an illusion. It's all just a play of consciousness. That's a pretty horrible, to me, a horrible explanation. Because that means Shiva veils itself, goes through this horrible suffering, which it thinks is real, because in a dream you think the dream is real. So in this explanation, we're all supposed to be dreamers in a dream. So the child being tortured by its own parents, I know of one case recently, I'm going to say it, it's so horrible, cut up, dismembered, killed, after, tortured, sexually, Okay, you're telling me Shiva wanted to experience that? To know itself in consciousness? I don't buy it. It doesn't work that way. The oral practice tradition, thank godness, doesn't believe that, because I really put that to my teachers and they don't believe it. So I don't buy it. So if that disqualifies me and takes away my Kashmir Shaivist card and I'm no longer included in the Vidya-Gupta's club, I don't care. I don't care. You understand? We get light bodies and we know what works. I don't really care if some tradition from a book tries to explain every little thing about the universe and can't do so. And neither should you. Don't be limited by these things that don't make any sense. I was taught something great by my Veda teacher. I did Vedic training, and I'm really grateful having done it too. It's not all bad, like non-dual Shaivism makes it all bad. It's actually quite amazing, Vedic training. I got a lot from it. My Vedic teacher, Sri Rami Shivam, said to me, we have a teaching in the Veda. If a child comes to you and gives you a teaching, and that teaching makes more sense to you than the one that's in the scripture, go with the teaching of the child. That blew my mind. I was like, but isn't this Veda all about scripture? He says, yeah, but this is in the scripture. So I thought, that is really amazing. And here, Kendra, and everybody else who struggles with this thing about evil and non-duality, no, you don't have to look at pedophilia and child pornography and murder and rape and war and look at it and go, it's all the bliss of Shiva. Inside of all those things is still intact Parama Shiva with all the bliss energy. No. There's another way of understanding. That is not the only way to understand this and still be a yogin, and still be a Shaivist yogin. There is another type of Shaivist yoga that doesn't have that view, and it's our view, okay? So I'll debate it with anybody, anytime, and it won't have any effect, because if you believe something, you stay with your belief. I can only teach what I experience directly, right? And what I experience directly is that is not okay. This kind of evil is not okay. What's the nature of awareness? The nature of it is that it can become diminished. Not in actuality, but in our experience of it. But our experience of it is real. Okay? So I would never look at someone who just got abused or something and say, oh, just relax, because it's all Shiva nature underneath. And actually, that's awareness wanting to become aware of itself. Okay, point number 2. Awareness that is already full, Shiva, that is already full, does not need to become aware of itself. That's called evolution. That's called something getting better. Shiva doesn't get any better. Nature of mind doesn't get any better. The state of Taryatita that includes everything, waking, dreaming, sleeping, doesn't get any better. There's no evolution going on here, folks. There's delusion going on, and that's evil. We have grasped at our own nature and become individual. Take this to the bank. You ready? It's going to solve a lot of suffering for you. No one knows why we did that. No one. Wait, I got to say it. No one knows why. The nature of consciousness. Can't do it. No one knows why we did that. We became individual consciousness. A Navamala exists. We grasped at our own individuality somehow. It's in the Bible. Lucifer fell out of oneness with God through grasping his own power, his own I-ness, and fell to the earth and became Satan. So that is the same story all around the world, everywhere. But no one, including the Buddha, knows why. And the Buddha was really smart because he didn't try to say why. I think this is the flaw of Shaivist non-duality as it's put out now from the line of Vidya-Gupta and the surviving texts we have, to try to say why it happens. Why it happens? Because awareness wants to know itself. Rubbish. Just rubbish. And it's never been my experience in the deepest states of meditation where I'm able to crack the higher states in the 12-stage view. Never been my experience that there's any sense to that view, those teachings. But I'm not putting those guys down in one way because I know that that was the game then. You had to explain everything. Otherwise, people thought your tradition was weak if you couldn't explain everything. But that's human realm. That's a human realm fixation, a weakness, to be explainer of reality. So let's not get caught there, okay? All right, there's no why, I covered that. Practitioners accept situation, return to source, period. Yeah, that's good. So I'm glad you asked that, Kendra. Oh, we have another one. 6 realms course, okay. Last one, because I think we only have a minute or two left. Is that right, Padma? A lot of my background or foundation of energy is not, what I talk about as energy is not from yoga philosophy. You're talking about ghosts and visions and prayers and spells and, okay, you're comfortable with all that, you get it, you're comfortable with all that? Okay, yeah, now I remember your question. Okay, so for you, when people are wondering about how do other realm beings figure into Tantra, what do they have to do with us, or Dzogchen or whatever? This universe is rife with beings. We're not the only being here. And we're not even in the center. We're not like Earth is in the center, like in astrology. Taoism says we're kind of like over here. You know, and I really like that view. Nothing says we're in the center. The universe is full of beings. So I have a teaching that I received from multiple teachers, and it's called 6 Realms. It is not only the material from Lair Short's Opening the Heart of Compassion book, it's from many other teachers all through my life. And I've put them all together to produce 3 levels of really good 6 Realms teachings. I don't start with the first level though. The first level is a shamanic level. I start with the second level, psycho-emotional, spiritual level of it for yogins, so they can work on themselves. Then I go back and teach the first level. It's hierarchically arranged, shamanic, yogic, and indirect, non-dual. The first level, shamanic, I go back later, it's called all our relations. Of course, it's called all our relations, taken from the Lakota Sioux saying, Aho Mitaku Yasu, right? All our relations, meaning we're connected to everybody. And in that, which is a huge part of the traditional Tantra, because Tantra came from shamanism, we talk about this view of all the different kinds of beings that exist in the universe and how we all exist together. See, Vedic practice, which was so important, and a lot of it absorbed into Tantra, the understanding of it, was to keep us in a healthy spiritual hygiene while we relate to beings of other realms, because other realm beings exist. And if we don't relate to them properly, we can get out of relationship with them. We can be in a lot of trouble. I'll tell you straight now, a lot of people that you think are spiritual teachers in the world that are like high spirituality, they're possessed by gods. A lot of the cities they have, the magic they have, I don't have to eat food, you know, or I can sit underwater for 10 days. You're either a Mahasiddha of stage 10 as a human being who achieved full realization of what he can do while you're still in a body, or you're possessed. Because being possessed by even powerful demons can give cities. Oh my God. Is that true? Yes, it's true. Is it tantric teaching? Yes, it's tantric teaching. Do you see it anywhere in the textbooks? Not the ones that have been translated so far. This is, again, in the Mahasiddha yoga tradition that we give by oral practice. Okay? Now, I love this topic. I teach it a lot, Kendra, and everybody else who's interested in it. If you want me to put it on and you're willing to send a deposit, I'll put it on here. Because if I put it out in the general public, not many people are interested. But for our people, I think it's extremely important. But I don't think you should do it too early in your training because it just can get you too weirded out. Like, oh my God, all these things are after me. It's better to have a stronger sense of yourself somewhere after stage 3. So if you're like stage 4, stage 5, 6, 7, 8, cool. Then this information becomes extremely useful. Before that, it can get a little bit too into like the universe is a perpetrator, a predator, instead of a nourisher. Overall, the universe is a nourisher. But there are beings in here that just want to eat you. That's a fact. You know, go swimming with sharks, find out. Yeah. In the other world too, there are beings that just want to eat you. But that's also why we pray to the lineage every day. We develop spiritual hygiene. We develop our essence heart to be radiant and beautiful. I've been prayed on by spiritual teachers that were possessed. Da Frijan was one teacher that prayed on me at one point. I woke up one day after having a horrible night in some other weird realm with him, trying to take me over. And I called up Georg Feuerstein, who was an old student of his who left him when he realized he was a cult master and was being possessed by deities rather than a realized being. And he said, oh my God, it's amazing you should say that, because I was just called also by, what's his name, the guy who's does a lot of human realm teachings about knowing everything, except the bald head and the glass, Ken Wilber. He used to be a student of Da Frijan as well. Da Frijan is Da Adi Batha, the Bright, whatever. The guy who changed his name a lot. Franklin, Rich Franklin, I think his name was, or John Franklin. So Da Frijan, anyway, all three of us got contacted by this guy, and who knows who else around the world, because he had tremendous cities from this being that was possessing him. And we all had the same story. He was calling us to him, trying to get us to come. He was like stroking our egos. You're great siddhas, you're great yogis, come be with me. I was so whacked out. I battled him, because once I said, no, you're a loser, you're crazy, I'm battling you as a yogin. I battled him in the dreamscape realm, and thankfully won, because I have great Mahasiddha masters with me, thank God. But then I was so shaken, I called Georg, and he said, I just heard from other people who had the same experience last night. He's out looking for people because he's losing his energy, losing his power. And he died a few years later. A horrible death, by the way. When that possessing entity comes out, you get like all crazy and weird looking, and you die a weird death. Instead of a light body or a blissful, peaceful exiting like my guru did from India. Okay? So I'm happy to teach that stuff. We just have to have it at a certain time when we're ready for it. And it's not on the schedule this year. It could certainly be on the schedule for next year, since we're going to teach every 4 to 6 weeks for a week. I love teaching it. I teach you how to take care of that spiritual hygiene level. I think it's really important. You see behind me, there's images and things that will, on the altar here, take care of that spiritual hygiene level. I can't see too much of it. Sorry about that. There's incense that we use that's very specific for that. There's talismans that we have up there that are very specific for balancing everything, keeping all harmonized. Oh, but Dharma, isn't that the lower level non-dual? Yeah, it is. It's lower level non-dual. It's like when I eat breakfast. You get it? So I don't care if it's lower level non-dual. I don't have the distinction dual, non-dual. I don't have the distinction lower, higher. If I have a lower realm Bhuta, which is available walking through any bush area when you go bushwalking, you know, if that thing goes in me and makes me sick, and I don't understand how it got in there in the first place, because I'm not supposed to be walking out in nature in the jungle. That's nature jungle. I should be where people are, right? If I don't understand that, and that gets in me, I start having crazy ideas and sickness. I got to know how to deal with it and how to prevent it in the future. That's not non-dual. That's not dual. That's not low. That's not high. That's human path of realization. It's a human handbook, okay? So I hope you understand that. We have a saying in that teaching, I'll just foreshadow it with, everything in the universe eats. My son knows this, my daughter knows this. I teach them growing up to say this all the time. Well, Papa, when they heard the crocodile took someone's arm down here. Everything in the universe eats, you know, because we have to understand that everything in the universe does eat and has to eat to live. And there are a lot of beings that would eat on your energy, live on your energy to survive. We need to understand how to work with them and prevent them, okay? So more on that another time. Okay, I didn't get to the other questions. I'll do them as posts and YouTube videos coming up. Great. Now we'll go to, please forgive me, I didn't realize last time I could have taken live questions. I didn't know. Now we'll do a half hour or 28, 25 minutes of live questions. They should be coming up in this thingamajig now. Okay, so now you can type in any live questions. If you made it through that class, I noticed all the little hearts and fairies that float over the screen when you first come on disappeared. So maybe people all left, but I'm still here if you want to write in any questions. I think it comes up here. Is that right?
Yeah.
The comments. So go to your comment bar if you want to ask any questions about that. If you want to challenge me on things too, that's fine too. You have to challenge the teacher sometimes if you don't believe something. Challenge. Do challenge. I'm not going to put you down. I'm not going to say you're less than. In the past, people said I used to put people down for challenging. Okay, so if I did that, I never want to do that again. I never really thought I was doing that. But I thought I was just stating our position in the tradition very strongly. But I can state it so strongly sometimes I think people think I'm putting them down or they're afraid to voice that challenging position. I don't want to do that. So you do whatever you want to do. You do whatever you want to do. So Kendra just wrote and said she's in to do that training. Okay. People are still here. So Elaine's still here, Kendra. So if you guys have any more questions, then please do. Malu's here, Timo's here. Okay, it's cool you're here. Okay, so Wenchen sends a question. Would really like to learn more about spiritual hygiene. Okay, so on that, since it comes off this question, let's talk about it. Just a few things you should do to help. Number one, I know it's become fashionable from hacks I saw on the internet recently to not shower, right? We had this problem in my wrestling class. I said, listen, you young guys and gals who are like really sweet people, I know you're reading this stuff and you're trying to be conscious people, blah, blah, blah. Shower before you come to wrestling. That's it. Now, it's a bit of a joke, but it's true. In the Vedic tradition, you shower first thing in the morning, really early. And then you take multiple showers during the day. When I used to do Vedic ceremonies, one time I was part of a 5-day ceremony in Sydney at the Krishna temple. And I was in charge of keeping the 5 fires aflame for 5 days in a row. So I really didn't sleep for 5 days. It was kind of a weird experience. Kind of cool though. Every time I ran off to go pee, I had to take a shower and put on a full South Indian dhoti once again and run back down again to sit in the ceremony and assist the priest and keep the fires going. So showering was considered what humans do in a natural running water source if possible, instead of a standing still bath, right? To clean the body. Now, there's a connection, like we're going to go through this teaching in great detail, if you like this teaching, when we go to do the Ayurveda and the Vajradeha, the indestructible body and Ayurveda. We're going to do that in November in India for Panchakarma. I'll be teaching every day there while you're getting Panchakarma treatment. Well, this is very important. We have to understand that spiritual hygiene starts with physical hygiene. It does. It starts with being showered. It starts with not letting your teeth rot. It starts with eating good food, so food's not rotting inside you. Remember, entropy is everything taking down the body. And here's a really interesting thing. In primal Ayurveda, which is the ancient tantric form of Ayurveda, or Siddha medicine, which I'll be teaching at that retreat, the theory of it, not the obvious practice, but the theory. It says that if your tissues are breaking down in your body, there's many causes, but underneath it all, or associated with it all, if your tissues are breaking down, are forces like spirits, other beings. The same way that certain insects and worms and so forth, they eat, or vultures eat decaying food, just dead or decaying food, that's their food. In the same way, when your body starts decaying, other things eat it, spirits, and also spirits in your body can start it decaying. So spiritual hygiene becomes extremely important, and the yogis used to practice this. They did the shakkarmas not just to cleanse the body physically, and not just to cleanse the channels physically, but they did it because they also wanted to cleanse the connections to the beings from other realms. Now, so physical hygiene is important. Vastu is really important. If you don't understand how your house is situated, what's the energy of the house, the land it's on, etc., it can definitely attract negative spirits. Now, I'm saying the word spirits here to cover a full range of beings. Let's use an example here in Costa Rica. Many little mountains and hills around here in jungles, they have minor gods in them. If you have a big lake with a waterfall, guaranteed it has a minor god in it and around it. You don't really go jump in. You ask prayers first. You make an offering first. You see what I mean? It comes from the whole modern Western notion that we're the greatest king of the jungle and we can just go and take over anything we want to. Like in Genesis, it started with Genesis in the Bible. Be fruitful, multiply, take over and conquer the earth and use all of its animals and everything for yourself. What a bad line to have in your religion. And supporting Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, that line supports them all. Terrible. Everybody grows up with that. Of course we have a problem with ecology in the world. That's not being in harmony with nature. So there could be a god that's influencing you, not just minor spirits, like the bhutas, the elementals, and so on. After physical hygiene, your vastu, how your house is situated, whatever, your living space. Next thing you want to look at is then how you maintain the inner space. Do you have an altar? Is it a good altar? Is it set up properly? Do you do prayers at the altar, make offerings? Oh, that's low level. Yeah, whatever. We've been through that. Do you have the proper incense? You know how this incense relates to that realm, or this incense relates to that realm, or this essential oil, or yeah, what pujas to do to rectify things? Do you know those pujas? Or is it like, oh, I'm just one with the one, so I don't have to think about that? Hey, if that's you, and you're existing at a stage 9, 10 place, you don't need any pujas or any spiritual hygiene, awesome. I say, awesome, great. But if you're listening to this broadcast, it's a really good chance you're not a Mahasiddha yet. And then we still need hygiene, okay? Cool. And the other ones just came in. That's how much I'll cover with that for now, if that's okay with you, Wenchen, so we can get a few more for other people. I'll do much more when you come for the training, I promise. Probably maybe a book someday if I have time. I always say that, but I'm going to try to get some voice recognition software to make books, just sit down and talk for a day, have a 100-page book. Nicholas, is the lineage certification given to an acharya the only way to know the difference between a realm-possessed being and an authentic realized teacher? Or other ways are no? No, Nicholas. Anuloma. Someone could be authorized. I could be authorized from a lineage like I am, and I could still get possessed. I could still get possessed. Even my Guruji, Swamiji from India, told me that he was possessed by a minor form of Shiva and threw him out at some point and then realized his own nature. Isn't that wild? It's really wild. I could tell more about that, but it would just get so confusing, because it's a big topic. Acharya certification, lineage holder certification, does not prove that you can't get possessed. It still depends on your ability to adhere to your own essential nature and follow spiritual hygiene and not get hijacked by the things that get you possessed, like egotism. Basically, self-cherishing, self-importance, not following the rules. People think, well, spirituality has been going on for 10,000 years, but we're in a new age now, and we're going to do Tantra a new way. We're going to do our own way. We don't need gurus anymore or acharyas. We're going to have the Kula be the acharya. How's that going to work? If you're not realized, you can't lead other people to realization. A book certainly can't do it. Look at the Sikhs. It didn't work for the Sikhs. So I think it's ridiculous. So we have to be really careful about that question. Now, what else did you say? Is it the only way to know the difference between a realm-possessed being and authentic? No, it's not the only difference. In fact, I wouldn't use it as a qualifier. What other ways are there no difference? That's hard. So Anulom is asking, Nicholas is asking a really important question. How can I know if someone's realm-possessed or not? If they're a teacher and maybe an acharya? It's really hard. And if I were to start telling you everything I think about each teacher out there that I think is possessed, because I'm a doctor. Basically, I come from being a doctor, and I was dealing with possession on a daily basis as an Ayurvedic Siddha medicine doctor. Lay people get possessed, teachers get possessed, and then if a teacher's possessed, it's a real problem, because then they start to teach from the possessed entity's ideas, not their own. And they start doing things from the possessing entity's ideas and energy, not their own. They start satisfying the needs and wants and desires of the possessed entity instead of their own. That's bad, really bad. There's so many ways. Okay, one simple thing is, someone said to me once, I wouldn't want to know any deity, right? Worship any deity who needed me to worship it. And I thought, man, that's true. That is a really powerful thing. So sometimes when you see teachers that like being worshipped, that like when people serve them and worship them, and obviously it's all about that. And then maybe they make the whole path. Look, you don't need to do anything. I'm so realized. You just come and serve me. You just come and serve me. This is what Dr. John used to say. Many teachers say that. That's really bad. That person you run from like crazy. They should be empowering you to have your own realization through your own practice. They should be able to talk to you like I'm talking to you right now, just like two mates having a beer, not have to be like, Those people, they're possessed, or they want to be possessed. Now I'm going to tell you something interesting. A lot of people want to be possessed. A lot of teachers want to be possessed. And here I'm going to break ranks with a whole lot of you. Last time I gave satsang, like 10 or 15 people got off the site immediately after. I always consider that pretty good because it means they're just not in the right place for them. I think it was when I was getting shitty about something. But here I go again. Here we go. I'm going to call a spade a spade. I can't lie to you. I got to tell you the truth. Here it is. The Indian traditions got way too focused on the gods and goddesses. And the Gurujis, female or male, who come out of those traditions often want to be possessed by a god or goddess. But because they're not really at that higher level, they get possessed not by the enlightened god or goddess, which would kind of be okay, except they can't tell you much about what it's like to be a human because they're a god or goddess, right? So they just say, just worship me. So you do puja to the guru all the time as a god or goddess. It's kind of stupid. Or get hugs all day from them. What's better to do, what's much better to do, you know what I'm talking about. What's much better to do is to you see the situation is not so good, right? So you don't want to get with a teacher who's possessed by a deity. Now the Indians are into it. They want to be possessed by a deity. The Indian gurus want to be possessed by something because they want the magic powers. They want the blissed out feeling that comes with it, not being a human. And I think it's a big problem in the lineages today, a really big problem. There's so many teachers out there who come from these Indian roots that really are already possessed. Now, here's another problem. Ready for this? How do you know you're possessed by an enlightened deity? You have to have the fruition of deity yoga. That's a very high level. That's stage 7, 8. And if you don't have a guru and you're doing deity yoga on your own, you're not going to know. If you don't have an acharya, a real acharya who knows the difference, you're not going to know. So let's look at this real simply. What is the God realm? Comfort, joy, bliss, exaltation, nothing bad, nothing strenuous, nothing hard, nothing difficult, nothing evil. It's a polarized view of non-duality where it's only the good stuff. Very lovey-lady, very new agey, hang a crystal up in your room, make the energy good. It's all about the good energy. Can't even deal with someone who's like having a hard time because they don't have good energy. You understand? Now, the whole Indian thing, I hate to say it, but like 70-80% of the teachers that come out of the Indian stream, that's Indians and non-Indians who come from those streams, are deeply into that kind of idea. They act very soft, they talk very lovey-lady, it's all very new agey, because it's God realm possessed. It's not human. Humans talk like this. Humans blink their eyes once in a while. Humans don't stare into the thing thinking they're giving you a transmission of some special realm or something, okay? So I'm very much against that, as you can tell. And for a good reason, because it's not good spiritual hygiene. You need to find out who you are. So when I see lineages where a teacher is talking in that way, that's got to be contrived, right? You know it's contrived, because if you were to hide around a corner and go, boo, at 10 o'clock at night when they were coming home from their satsang or something, they'd be like, oh my God, you scared the crap out of me. They'd be talking normal for a second, right? Then you talk normal for a while after. And I've seen this over and over because I know all these high teachers. I've met them all, Indians, Tibetans, and I've seen it. You don't see it with Tibetans. Tibetans may act arrogant. That's more Titan realm. They may act more arrogant, you know, but they don't act lovey-lady like possessed by the God realm. They don't. Look at Dalai Lama, king of compassion. He talks very normal when he gives interviews, when he's doing retreats or he's doing interviews with Larry King, wherever. Just go online and look. You don't see all that. You are the one. You must just remember. It's all so easy. Dalai Lama is a high-level Dzogchen master. Why doesn't he have to talk like some flaky, spaced-out person? Because he's not possessed by the God realm. So when it comes to teachers, I look for this. God realm possessed ones, they're lovey-lady looking. That's it, just simple. They're lovey-lady looking. They're not going to teach you about evil, duality, duality is bad, you know, blah, 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 blah. They're not going to teach you any of this kind of stuff. The second one I look out for teachers is a Titan realm. They're dangerous. They want to build power. They're both dangerous. But the Titan realm is one, they want to build power. They want to build an army of loyal devotees who fight for them, and blah, blah, blah. And they're all into power and power displays, and it's all hierarchical and everything. We don't want that. Human realm gurus, less dangerous. You won't get realized with them because they're going to teach you how to get stuck in your brain, in your mind, but less dangerous, you know. What are they like? System, 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 scripture, 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 argument, 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 tons and tons and tons of writing, tons and tons and tons of talking, very little practice, very little, if any, realization. That sums up the human realm ones. So just look out for those three big qualifiers when you go out there. I know a lot of you guys here are not my students, and you're out looking around, and even my students are out, like Nicholas, looking around for other teachers, local and so forth. Beware and be careful. You want to make sure you're getting teachings from a human being. That's really important, okay? Cool. How am I doing in my half hour? 7 more minutes, okay. Okay, Wenshin says, yes, I'm coming. Okay, great. Andrew, he's catching it later. He's got to leave for work, no problem, whatever. Kendra, when you spoke about seated practice and integrative practice, can you share any integrative practice here now? Okay, so the integrative practices, you spoke about their importance. I'd like to know more. So yeah, the integrated practices we have, they're not a general category of integration practice. In other words, each cycle of teachings you go through has integration practices. The dream yogas have integration practices that you do during the day. I'll give you an example of one. It's really funny. So my first wife did dream yoga practice and got so excited about it, she made a stamp that says, this is only a dream. You know, a stamp that you do in an ink pad and go stamp things. and she stamped everything. Literally. She stamped the appointment book in our clinic, every page, all over it. Was every page, like for the whole year. This is all just a dream. This is just a dream. When I came into work, she stamped my forehead. She goes, this is just a dream. She went in early and opened up, and I was outside sweeping and stuff. I came upstairs. She stamped my head. This is just a dream. It was hysterical. And I had to go wipe it off before my first chiropractic patients arrived. But, you get the point. She was deep into it. It's integration practice. You're supposed to remind yourself all day, this is just a dream. That's only one integration practice. And she made the stamp to help her with it as a cute little tool. Okay. But there are integration practices that are specific for each stage of the path of meditation or the path of fire, the Kundalini Hatha Yoga of Trikonasana Yoga. Integration practices for the path of water, the way of water as well, for puja. So they all have it. They all do. Mirror Consort has integration practice, but they're all specific. So I can't give them one general and say, other than we should be more present. But for us, that kind of idea of being present is so basic. That basic Hinayana Theravada, like be present. What was that guy's name? Eckhart Tolle's thing. Yeah, be present. Everybody's got to be present. So we teach in foundation training, presence, real time. Present, presence, and real time is taking the idea of being present and extrapolating it out like Russian dolls, to get back to or going into, I should say, to get to the core of our essential nature. Because just being present will maybe lead you there in 5 billion lifetimes, but as Tantra goes, there's no chimpas. We want to get there faster. It's not Mahasiddha Yoga path is about now. So what we want to do is expand that understanding of what present is. What we use the word as presence to mean. Presence in this doesn't mean we just have a good feeling. It's very different than what real time means. So we'll go into that more. Thanks for that, Kendra. Kendra just read the Vastu book. That's great. Robert Svoboda's, I think you're referring to, because that's the one we recommend. It's excellent. Julia, you brought up the murder, child killing stuff isn't explained as part of non-dual bliss, knowing itself. Instead, in this tradition, we just don't know why these things happen. That's what I said. Full stop. Is that correct? That's what I said. You don't have to explain everything. You know you're suffering. You know you're in a deluded view. We know how to get out of it and become a rainbow light master like the ones on the wall behind me or like the ones on the altar behind me. We don't need to know why. And knowing why and making the wrong answer for it F's you up. Here's the reason, Julie and everybody else. Sorry to be so crass. Here comes my Manhattan out of me. Don't make it up if you don't know. That's called cosmic bullshit. And when you do that, that shapes a person's practice and that shapes a person's fruit. The fruit comes out at the end. Turn it off. Do you understand? So what happens here is that when you say awareness just wants to get to know itself and it's all just bliss and it's all just a dream and you shouldn't be upset by child pornography and torturing children sexually and then brutally murdering them and war and pestilence, and idiot politicians destroying the ecology, which is going to be the end of our race. That's all bad stuff. There is a real category of bad stuff. That's not Shiva trying to get to know itself. Now, when you teach that it is Shiva trying to get to know itself, and you teach that it's blissful underneath it all, you're going to put people into the God realm. The God realm already is full of beings who don't want to deal with anything negative and uncomfortable. Guys, gals, listen, read the mythology. It's all there. What is the God realm? The God realm is a place where the gods hang out, getting blissed, getting drunk, eating everything they want, having all the sex they want, all the comforts and pleasures they want endlessly until the karma of it runs out. Then they're like, oh shit. And then they get reincarnated into some other realm, right? Okay, the myth always teaches that the asuras, or the demigods, call them the reality gods, they come in to give a reality check to the gods and they're beating the crap out of them in the war. They're always trying to take over the heavens and they're pretty much beating the crap out of them all the time. And then the gods have to ask Shiva to save them in some way. Or if you're a Shakta, they ask Ma, who is Shiva's wife, to save them in some way. Who saves them? Oh, the one God, Shiva, who's not acting like a god, who doesn't want comfort, who goes for austerity, who wants simplicity, who wants the bliss of meditation, not the bliss of wine, women, and song, not even the bliss of blissing out on meditation, which is a God realm thing. Side note, bliss was never emphasized in the early tradition as essential in your nature. That came much later in Tibetan and in Indian traditions. So all this emphasis on bliss is extremely problematic. It's God realm influenced. The emphasis on bhakti yoga, God realm influenced, especially in the last 500 years since Chaitanya Swami. Okay? So, yes, this is it. When this is taught as doctrine, as the dogma of Kashmir Shaivism, right? The dogma of awareness getting to know itself, that's evil, and it's all bliss underneath. It's terrible because when you practice that, it makes you want to move away from those other things because then they're not Shiva, right? It makes you want to code it in a way that it's all the dreamlike nature of Shiva and not deal with that reality, not deal with that negativity, not deal with that evil. So yes, there's no reason. We don't know why it happens. We don't need to know why it happens. The best thing is we don't need to know why it happens. We know how to get out of samsara, we know how to light body, and it embraces all the evil as well. It doesn't accept it, but you don't resist it, but you don't accept it. You don't accept it as Shiva trying to get to know itself. That's just ridiculous. Thank you. Am I done? 1 minute. We got the 1 minute time up. Henrik, you mentioned deep meditation. Is that like jhanas, or how would you describe it in this tradition? I'll have to do that later. That's a big one. It means deeper than your mind. In these tattvas, above the 25th tattva, if you know the 36 tattvas. Well, Wendy, we lost Wendy. She lost her feed somehow. Hi, all 2 registrations just came in. I guess we had, hi all, 2 registrations came in for Foundation Retreat. Okay, we got 2 registrations left, the administrator's telling me. And Jose, Guru Seva, a quick one. What is a good mythological reference for the realms? Mahabharata, Bhagavad. Okay, really great, I think, is to read the Ramayana. I love the Ramayana for it, and I love the Mahabharata, both. I read both of those. Swamiji talked about them a lot, talked about the other beings from other realms from those texts, uses it as examples. You get far more examples than just 6 realms. There's actually many more realms. But in the later teachings, when the Buddhists organized it, this is too big and unwieldy. Let's just make 6. And it works nicely. It does. But when I teach it in a more broken down fashion, you're going to have these beings that are like kind of ghosty, but kind of really evil, demon-y. They don't quite fit there, and kind of powerful like a titan. So there's actually many more categories. We like to say in the tradition that there's 64,000 categories of beings, which means pretty much infinite. Taoism says there was a lot of different categories of beings as well. And to become a Taoist priest, you have to make contracts with all the heads of those realms and control them and all that kind of stuff. It's really quite fascinating. It was a process I was exposed to in my training at one time. Same thing in certain streams of Tantra. Anish, can there be bhakti as gratitude without the flinching away from the world or the God realm? Absolutely, Anish, absolutely. Absolutely. There can be bhakti as gratitude. Gratitude is one of the crucial virtues that we have to have from day one in the tradition. Day one. Bhakti, gratitude with discrimination, right? Not just open gratitude so people take advantage of you. We never leave our discrimination. Okay. Do you need to be in long, so Eleni is saying, this last one and we'll cap it. Do you need to be in long sessions of meditation to experience deep meditations? That's a tricky one. You can go very short meditation, like when Harish teaches about micro meditations. I think he got that from us, to tell you the truth. He was young in college when I still knew him, and I was teaching a lot, and he was doing not a lot of our trainings, a few of our trainings, but he came to one called Mind of Shiva. And in that one, and for years, I've been telling people to do, or maybe he got it on his own, I don't know, but I've been telling people for years and years, the trend at that time in the 90s and early 2000s was to like go longer and longer and longer. And then people were turned off by meditation. They felt like they couldn't meditate. So what I told people is, look, do short meditations. Do 5 minutes, but never miss that time of day. Never miss. So I would say to everybody who wants general advice about meditation, before you take up the path of meditation in our school, which has distinct instructions stage by stage, here's general advice. If you haven't meditated a lot, or you're not getting good results, go short. Be consistent. Start with 3 sessions a day, 5 minutes. That's it. You can do 3-channel poison breath before clearing, whatever you need to do, chanting, but the meditation proper, 5 minutes. Closing meditation, closing chanting after prayers, you're gonna just 5. Do that for a month, increase to maybe 7 minutes for the next month, 10 minutes for the next month. And if you keep going up like 3 minutes a month, in very little amount of time, you're up to an hour, 3 times a day, and you're doing very deep meditation. So when I'm talking about deep meditation, It doesn't usually need longer sessions, Eleni or anybody else who's asking, but long eventually is necessary. What we're talking about is necessary, though, is touching a deep place in meditation. Now, some people can get to that deep place very quickly. I've been actually, without any exaggeration, I was introduced to meditation, prayer first, when I was like 5, deep prayer by an Indian, an American Indian. Then I got meditation instruction for the first time at 12, did it here or there, not a lot, 12 to 15. I do it usually before a match or a tournament. I was doing full contact kickboxing, I was doing wrestling as a kid. But when I was 15, I got serious. Look at my astrology, I don't know. Something got hit and I started doing it every day. I pretty much did it every day since. So that depth has gotten very quick. Now I can get to depth very quick. But having said that, it doesn't mean that a 2-minute meditation very deep is the only thing necessary, because even at the place that I'm at now in my training, I'm still going. I'll be going till I'm a light body. And now some of these sits that I'm gearing up for are like 10-hour periods. We have to sit for 10 hours straight. So some of them are quite long. So we want to gear up to that very slowly. That's not necessary for everybody. Don't let me scare you away. You don't have to go from light body. Not important. You do have to learn how to dive deep. So we have a progressive way to help you dive deep. Once you touch deep, then you can decide how long you want to stay there based on what fruit you want for your life and your practice, okay? That's the final on that one. So remember, satsang will be every month, like we said before, as we started at the beginning. And one more time, I wanted to tell you that the foundation retreat has 2 places left in August 12 to 18. Yogas of dream, sleep, and death, I highly recommend. If we get more than the intimate number, we'll move it to a retreat center here called Goddess Garden. That's really beautiful, or another one like it. Because that one we can do big numbers for. And I really think a lot of people should get that teaching before they pass. It also makes us a much deeper practitioner. That's November 4th to 8th in Costa Rica. Vajradeha Ayurveda Retreat. That's November 25th to December 15th in India. And you're going to have to sign up for that one real quick if you want to do it. And I'm saying that not to sell it to you, but because there's limited capacity at Dr. Ravi's Ayurvedic clinic. And during those dates, he already has people booked in to the hospital. So if we book in as a group, we might be able to get our whole group together in one building, which would kind of be cool too. And we can have a little talk. And if you're not too nauseous from the Ayurveda treatment, you can do some meditation with us at the same time. That's November 25th to December 15th this year, Kerala, India. Okay, right. So satsang next is June 30. We'll see you on that one. I think that's it, right? Okay, lovely. Peace. In a non-God realm kind of way. Anything you want to do, Suki, to make sure that we do this right and save it? Yeah. For those people who couldn't see it. If you want to save